A disaster management based project report. This is to certify that the project report titled Disaster Preparedness for Mass Gathering, a case study of Mahakumbh 2025 is my original work, blah blah blah. I am deeply grateful for the invaluable support and guidance I received during the preparation of this report. This enriching experience has been collaborative effort, and I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all those contributors to this successful. Table of content, list of figures, list of table, list of maps, introduction, statement of conceptual framework, review of literature. This is how you should do any research of social science. Background, introduction, statement of problem, conceptual framework, review of literature, aims and objectives, database and methodology. Now the chapter 2 is about geographical background of study area, physical background, demographic, economic, cultural, historical analysis of Mahakumbh held in Prayagraj since independence. Now the main concept which we are doing this project is about hazard, risk, vulnerability assessment of the study area. What is the hazard profile of that area, what is the risk assessment of the area, vulnerability assessment of that area. Chapter 4 is about how disaster preparedness can be achieved. What is the disaster preparedness for Mahakumbh, crowd management strategy and challenges, preparation and execution of crowd management plan, perception of local people. Chapter 5 is of capacity development, crowd management for Mahakumbh. Introduction, capacity development during Mahakumbh, role of ICT and AI in disaster preparedness during Mahakumbh, role of UPSTMA, role of NDRF, and role of citizens. These are the list of figures. These are the list of tables. These are the list of maps. Now introduction. Prayagraj, or it is also known as Allahabad, situated at the confluence of Yamuna, Ganga and mythological Saraswati river, hold immense spiritual, cultural and geographical significance. It is located in the Indo-Gangetic plain. Its humid subtropical climate support intensive agriculture. As per the 2011 census, the district hosts over 5.9 million people. With a literacy rate of 72% and sex ratio of 900 females per 1,000 males. Historically known as Prayag, it has been long since a center of learning, pilgrimage, political resistance, making it apt host for Mahakumbh Mela. However, its geographical location also exposes it to multiple hazards. The city's low-lying terrain and river proximity make it flood-prone. Flood affected 2.7 million hectares in Uttar Pradesh annually. Causing damage of around 400 crores. Rising temperatures exceeding 45 degrees Celsius in 2024 have led UPSTMA to label it as heat wave spot. It is a heat wave hotspot. Flood prone. also known as seismic zone 3. Drought driven by erratic rainfall and groundwater depletion add to vulnerabilities. Mass events like 2025 Mahakumbh Mela, which drew 660 million visitors. I'm not changing again the highlight. It has intensify these risks. Global, national, and local framework emphasize all hazard, multi-sectoral risk reduction during the 2025 Mela, AI-based surveillance, CBRN training, and 1,000 sanitation workers and civil society volunteers exemplified this integrated approach. So you can see how disaster management is an integrated approach in today's world. While Prayagraj has many strides in disaster risk governance, the 2025 tragedy highlights the need for continuous learning and inclusive development. Its experience offers valuable lessons for managing high-risk urban gathering in the era of climate uncertainty. For me, I think it is the most important line to ascertain that how urban gatherings with the climate uncertainty is actually increasing our vulnerability to disasters, and specifically human-induced disasters. Now, statement of problem. The Mahakumbh Mela, held every 144 years in Prayagraj, is one of the one of the world's largest religious gathering, attracting tens of millions of pilgrims. While it symbolizes spiritual unity, it also poses serious challenge in crowd control, infrastructure, public health, and environmental sustainability. Past events have seen disease outbreaks, fires, and climate-related. These are the problem: fires and climate-related disruption, revealing critical gaps in disaster preparedness. Despite policy framework like Disaster Management Act 2005, these are the policies, and NDMA guidelines, implementation struggles due to event scales and temporary setup. Emerging threats such as extreme weather, pollution, climate, or biological hazards further complicate the planning. This study emphasized the need for multidimensional approach that integrates the institutional coordination. By institutional coordination, risk profiling, behavioral insights, community involvement, and technology to ensure safe, inclusive, and resilient Mahakumbh 2025. Conceptual framework. The conceptual framework of this study is rooted in an interdisciplinary approach that integrates integrated disaster risk management (IDRM), urban resilience theory, and complex adaptive system theory to holistically examine the multifaceted disaster risk landscape of the Mahakumbh 2025. This framework directly addresses the challenge outlined in the problem statement, namely infrastructure strain, institutional gaps, involving nature of risk in mass religious gathering, by synthesizing 8 dimensions. IDRM, a core philosophy, emphasizes cyclical and systematic approach to disaster planning and aligns with the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, in advocating for continuum for risk assessment to recovery, where failures in one domain may trigger cascading effects. Urban resilience theory focuses on adaptive capacity in transient urban systems like temporary tent city of the Mahakumbh. Urban resilience theory focuses on the adaptive capacity of transit urban systems like temporary tent city of Mahakumbh, examining infrastructure robustness, social capital, institutional redundancy in the face of stressors like climate disruption and disease outbreaks. Viewing the Mela as a complex adaptive system further underscores the need for decentralized governance. Real-time situational awareness and interoperable communication among subsystems such as health, transport, and security. The framework incorporates hazard profiling through geospatial intelligence and predictive analytics, leveraging tools like GIS mapping, drone surveillance, AI-based crowd flow model for anticipatory governance. It also includes socio-cultural risk analysis using behavioral insights and anthropologically informed planning to understand ritual-based congregation pattern and promote cultural resonate safety protocol. Institutional and policy synergy is evaluated through the lens of interagency coordination, emphasizing unified command system, simulation drills, and operationalization of incident response system as per national guidelines. Community engagement and capacity building. Through the mobilization of local volunteers, civil defense, and religious leaders are aligned with the Sendai framework mandate for the community-led resilience and first responder readiness. Finally, the framework critically reflects on government and policy fragmentation, calling for legal enforceability, safety standards, multi-tiered coordination, post-event accountability mechanism. Together, these dimensions forms a strategic scaffold that not only captures the dynamic complexity of the Mahakumbh but also proposes adaptive, inclusive, and resilient disaster preparedness models. Review. Mass gathering such as Kumbh Mela necessitated robust crowd management strategies to mitigate risks like medical emergency and infrastructure failure, as Patel et al. 2020. Effective management required meticulous planning, stakeholder coordination, risk assessment, and the integration of technologies such as GIS surveillance system and data analytics. Leadership also plays a critical role. Understanding crowd psychology and behavior is essential. With theories like those of Freud, Lebon, Turner, emergent norm theory informing adaptive crisis leadership. The Uttar Pradesh State Disaster Management Authority and the National Disaster Management Authority emphasize structured planning, real-time monitoring through CCTV and drones, role allocation, and community engagement to maintain high-density events. Simulation models and real-time data, as proposed by Al-Hamdi et al., can identify congestion zones. It is important. Simulation models and real-time data models, as proposed by Al-Hamdi, congestion zone and aid timely intervention. NIDM, National Integrated Disaster Management training module offer practical guides on planning, legal framework, and interagency collaboration. The Disaster Management Act 2005 provides a legislative foundation establishing NDMA, SDMA to lead coordinated disaster response. The Uttar Pradesh Disaster Management Policy promotes proactive risk reduction and integration into development planning. Studies by Konji and Tiwari and Sharma underscores that the need for hazard identification, fire risk mitigation, capacity estimation, and stakeholder synergy. International perspectives such as Struwitsky echo the importance of procedural planning and technology in mitigation crowd behavior risk. Technological innovation is further emphasized by Safgal, who highlights the use of IoT for real-time crowding monitoring, enhancing situational awareness and rapid response. Asif and Bindu trace the evolution of crowd management practices, post strategies, advocating systematic planning, surveillance, and communication. Additionally, Pothi Reddy et al. 2025 introduced the role of corporate social responsibility in promoting youth awareness, safety, and behavioral change during large events. Together, these studies illustrate a shift from reactive to proactive, technology-enabled, and psychologically informed crowd management, rooted in legal, institutional, and collaborative flavor tailored for complex religious congregation like the Mahakumbh Mela. Aim: that to assess the and analyze The disaster risk profile of Mahakumbh in Prayagraj evaluate the preparedness strategies undertaken for managing potential hazards such as floods, earthquake, and hailstorm. The focus on crowd management, institutional capacity, and local participation in disaster risk reduction. Objective to examine the geographical, demographic, hazard-specific risk profile of the study area to understand the spatial and temporal vulnerability associated with mass gathering during the Mahakumbh, to critically evaluate the preparedness strategy, institutional mechanisms, and crowd management plan implemented by local authorities, disaster management agencies, and civil society organizations to reduce the disaster risk reduction during the event. To assess the public perception, community involvement, and the role of emerging technologies such as ICT and AI in enhancing disaster preparedness, early warning dissemination, and effective response during the Mahakumbh.